Hello and welcome to Newsclick. Today we have with us Dr. Amit Sengupta, who has been following the West Bengal elections quite closely. Amit, the West Bengal elections are rather disturbing if we look at the second day of the first phase, where there seems to have been a lot of reports of violence and a lot of intimidation of the voters and so on. So what does it seem to indicate? Do you think that this is really going to affect the elections?
Well, some would say that this was expected because over the last month or so, the ruling Trinamool Congress has been under severe pressure of different kinds. There have been sort of clear evidence or what seems to be clear evidence of a number of senior party people taking bribes, which have been part of a sting operation and is being widely shown across Bengal. There are also the allegations related to her party people being involved in supplying substandard material, which led to the collapse of a major bridge in Calcutta. So they have been on the defensive, at least as far as public perception is concerned. Now, the Trinamool Congress in the last 5 years has had a very clear kind of a role in trying to manipulate elections or rig elections in certain ways by creating an atmosphere of violence, intimidation, etc. Now, this time around, this was the background. This was the history of the Trinamool Congress, which the Election Commission knew about. And there were a number of promises made that and some steps also taken by the Commission, including removal of some key government functionaries, etc., to ensure that the elections are not marred by these kinds of allegations. The second phase actually
The second day of the first phase, actually.
The second day of the first phase on 11th April saw a number of incidents of intimidation and violence and some of actually false voting taking place in booths where opponent polling agents had not been allowed to enter or had been thrown out. What it points to is one, the inability of the Election Commission to follow up on what they had claimed they would do, which is ensure that the elections are intimidation free, that people will be able to cast votes based on their personal choices. What it possibly also shows is the increasing desperation within the Trinamool Congress in an atmosphere where now the media and the general people are starting to speculate that maybe the Trinamool Congress will not be voted back to power. So that sort of sums up what we saw as an effect on 11th April, when the allegations of malpractice and violence were of a much higher order than what one saw on the 4th. On the 4th of April, on the first day, there were incidents that took place, but not at the scale in which
It has
taken place now.
Now, the interesting part of it is that actually the media earlier didn't report this in the earlier elections which had taken place, whether it be the elections in the corporations, municipalities, or the panchayats, or the parliament elections as well. Both these times the media had played a relatively complicit role by not really focusing on the kind of violence that was there. This time, some parts of the media have actually openly been talking about violence and intimidation, which is quite different from what they have done earlier. So, do you see also change of perception in the media vis-a-vis the Trinamool Congress?
Well, definitely. The media is much more hostile to the Trinamool Congress, and concurrently much less hostile to the left in particular than it was, say, 5 years back. So, you had this honeymoon period with the media, which didn't actually last very long. And in fact, the media had started even within about 6 months or a year of the Trinamool Congress coming to power, of starting to report various incidents that the people in the Trinamool Congress had been embroiled in, including cases of rape, cases of intimidation, cases of harassment, etc.
Also the chitfunds case.
And then the Saradha chitfund scam, which was reported very widely in the media. As far as elections are concerned, the reporting was much more low-key. It wasn't as if they were not reporting the malpractices. It was widely known and it was being written about in the media, but not at the scale at which it. In fact, things actually turned during the corporation elections, which took place a few months back, Calcutta and neighboring areas, where there was, wide-scale violence and intimidation. It wasn't an election. It wasn't a proper election at all. And the fact that a lot of media personnel got beaten up, who had gone to report, also played a role in turning significant sections of the media against what the Trinamool Congress was doing. So yes, this time around there is a much larger level of the media playing a watchdog role and reporting incidents that take place. What we see now was practically inconceivable even a month or a few weeks back. For example, even on the 11th, when we are talking about the incidents that took place of violence and intimidation. But what is significant and what was not seen at that level, at least for the last 4.5 years, is that in spite of the intimidation, huge numbers of people who are obviously going to vote against the Trinamool Congress not only came and voted, but many of them were willing to face the camera and say that they were being threatened, say that they were going to vote against the Trinamool Congress. This was totally something that you wouldn't see even a few weeks back. So there is obviously a churning that is taking place and a belief in sections that this government can be defeated. And so earlier, when there was this belief that nothing's going to change, people would be silent, people would also go along with the current dispensation, believing that they would have to live with it. Now people are starting to say that, starting to think at least, that maybe things will change and maybe the Trinamool Congress can be defeated.
But in a close election, which is what could still be what's happening, even a small percentage of votes or booths being captured, rigged and so on could make an effect, could have an impact.
Sure. I mean, if you look at the opinion polls, but again opinion polls in Bengal have rarely captured the actual situation. But if you look at the opinion polls, forget the seats that are being sort of allocated based on the polls. But the percentage of vote is almost the same for the Congress and CPIM put together.
44-43%, well within the what would be called the
margin of
error.
Margin of error. So it is. I mean, everybody accepts today. I mean, almost everybody accepts today that it's going to be a very close election. And yes, in a close election of this kind, you can theoretically micromanage the system, where you almost know how many votes you need to garner through unfair means. In many constituencies, it may be a few hundred or maybe a couple of thousands. So that means basically that you need to concentrate on 5 or 6 booths. 5 or 6 booths means 3,000 votes. So if you are able to manipulate 3,000 votes, it can swing an election, swing one seat either way. So yes, theoretically, this, even if the scale in terms of the number of booths affected may not seem very high, but they still have the ability to turn the election in a different direction.
So what do you expect over the next now another 5 phases or 6 phases which are there? So do you think that there will be a change in what the Election Commission would do? Do you think there is a possibility? Because Election Commission seems to have done what would be called really I close my eyes and everything is well kind of response. They've said by and large the elections have passed off peacefully, though the media has derided that statement of the left and the others have protested against that. Do you think the Election Commission is likely to change anything, or this is going to be the pattern now of the rest of the elections?
You see, technically the Election Commission has enormous powers. While supposedly an independent commission, it does, there are several indications that it tends to follow the directives from the party in power at the center. And this is what has been speculated for a long time, that the BJP is much happier having the Trinamool elected again than getting the left elected back in West Bengal. If you look at the record of the Trinamool voting for significant bills which the government was interested in passing, clearly there is an alliance between the Trinamool, tacit alliance between the Trinamool Congress and the BJP in parliament, which means that it would be fairly stupid to believe that that alliance does not extend at least under the table as far as the elections in Bengal are concerned. But the BJP is really caught in a cleft stick. It's a very interesting situation in Bengal, where the BJP's increase in vote share, which was prominently seen during the parliamentary elections when they went up from their traditional 5 to 6% to something like 17%. It is widely believed a much larger proportion of that came from traditional support that the left had earlier received. And it was not really a vote for the BJP, but more of seeing the BJP as a shelter, because they were in power in the center, a shelter from Trinamool Congress's terror and intimidation, especially in rural Bengal. Now, everybody, again including the opinion polls, projects that 17% is going to come back much nearer the base 5 to 6% of the vote that the BJP has. Now, which means that if the BJP is interested in getting the Trinamool elected back, then they should not get anywhere near that 17%. Because if they get anywhere near the 17%, that means that that's a piece of the vote that otherwise would have gone to the left. So, while on one hand they obviously have a tacit understanding, on the other hand they need to be seen to be fighting the elections seriously, so that people vote for them and draw away some portion of the vote that otherwise would have gone to the left.
Anti-Trinamool vote that might go to the left otherwise.
Exactly. So the logical thing for them to do is posture on the ground during the campaign, so that they can draw in the vote, but at the level of, for example, the Election Commission, ensure that the Trinamool has an almost free run in places where they are in a position to influence the election by rigging it. So that's the dual nature of the BJP, which is reflected in the attitude of the Election Commission as well.
You are attributing the fact that the Election Commission is sort of closing its eyes to the reality, which is what everybody has charged them with. A part of it is because of the kind of signals they are getting from the center, and that's what's reflected in this particular case of the Election Commission not really taking this up in
absolutely. I mean, yes, one can say that you cannot still make the election 100% watertight. It requires the use of security forces of a much higher order, but they can do a much better job than what they're doing.
Also, the fact that central security forces, which are much more directly under their control, even they have not been used. That they have not been used adequately. They have not really made any effort to respond to the complaints. The fact that even central observers did not go when requested, and so on. So there's been a whole set of issues that are there with the Election Commission. Again, reported widely by the press and also the complaints of the left as well as the Congress, even officially of the BJP. So all this would seem to indicate that there is a kind of tacit willingness to have Trinamool rig at least part of the election and look the other way. That seems to be what is.
That's clearly what the BJP would want. I mean, even without any other evidence, what is in BJP's benefit, it goes to their benefit, is that the Trinamool should come back to power.
So what you are saying is that essentially the BJP has this dual approach to West Bengal elections, where they would like to retain their vote share. That will affect the left votes, you think, in this case, and help Mamata win. At the same time, would like at least Mamata to be able to do what she has done in the last couple of elections in Bengal, both corporations, municipal and as panchayat, as well as the parliament elections.
Yes, that would, I mean, that kind of sums it up, except to, I would again insist that there is a countervailing force that is in operation now, which we haven't seen in the last 4.5 years, at least not anywhere in that scale, of people actually mobilizing, coming out and resisting attempts to rig the vote.
So essentially that has been at least the direct fallout of the fact that the two major opposition parties in Bengal have come together, which is the left as well as the Congress. And particularly in North Bengal, Murshidabad, the areas, there is the Congress has been able to retain its base, unlike in southern Bengal, where actually it has lost its base to the.
So that's one area where the close percentage of, if you look at the fact that the Trinamool Congress and the Congress and left put together are very near each other. But this is the fact that both the left and the Congress are fairly strong in North Bengal, means that the likely scenario is in most of the seats in North Bengal, the left or the Congress nominees will win with large margins. But in South Bengal, because the Congress is a much weaker force there, the contest will be much closer. So in vote percentage, what is being speculated, and it's not entirely something that is out of the realm of imagination, that the Trinamool might end up with a vote percentage that is lower than that of the Congress and the left, and yet have a higher number of seats. I mean, one of the scenarios that is being discussed at the moment.
It's a very close election to call even otherwise, with the added element of rigging of selective areas, booths and so on, even more difficult to predict.
Yeah, I mean, if it was 6 months back with reports of this kind of rigging, one would have said that the Trinamool is getting away with it. This time, it's not possible to say that. You will still say that it's a close election. It seems like a close election.
The fact that people have come out in spite of this and hopefully will come out means election still remains in the balance. Thank you very much, Amit. We'll hope to discuss these issues with you as the other phases take place in Bengal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.